What's going on, guys, and welcome to another tutorial here on our channel, The Guide. My name is Valerio, and today's tutorial is one that I hope gives you guys an extra tool for your offensive dribbling. More specifically, I want to talk a bit about the strafe dribble and the exit that you can perform out of it. And it's so effective, so much so that it almost appears to give your player a speed boost. Despite how surprising and effective it looks, it's not something that you will encounter a lot in online gameplay. Hopefully this video will help in giving you guys an idea of how to implement it into your own matches. Before we do get into the specific commands that you'll be required to do to perform it, and some in-game examples to give you guys a better idea of the context you might want to look for before you perform and look to try the speed boost. If you guys are interested in weekly player instructions for different formations, in various weekend league tips, different player reviews, and updates on content, be sure to drop us a follow on our Instagram page. The links to everything will be in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, because this move begins with the strafe dribble, if you want the complete rundown on everything related to the strafe dribble, definitely check out our dedicated video on it, and it goes over the normal strafe, the locked angle strafe, and everything in between. So info to that, which will give you the foundation, will be in the description below. To activate the speed boost off of the strafe dribble, we're only going to be focusing on the locked angle strafe dribble variation. And as a quick refresher, to strafe dribble, normally you just press the L1 or LB button depending on your console, but this will always turn you towards the goal. If you press both L1 and R1 or LB and RB again depending on your console, you will strafe dribble at a locked angle, and thus you will keep facing the direction of when you started the mechanic, and the game will not turn you back around towards the goal. So for the purposes of the speed boost, we definitely prefer using the strafe dribble at a locked angle to allow us to remain in complete control. Now, to perform the speed boost while strafe dribbling straight in a direction, you'll have to let go of L1 and R1, and at the same time you do that, you press R2 as in the sprint button, and what this ends up doing is it gives your player an incredibly rapid exit animation which can launch you past opponents quite easily. This requires quite a bit of practice in the skill games because the timing is everything. The speed at which you let go of your L1 and R1 bumpers and then activate the sprint button makes or breaks the mechanic, and the better you do it, the smoother it all happens and the more the speed boost on the player performing the strafe dribble will be. One thing to note about the actual inputs that will affect a large amount of people is the way that you actually hold your controller. Not everyone holds it the same, and some people prefer to only use their index fingers to maneuver the triggers behind the controller. That is the L1, R1, L2, and R2 buttons on PS4, and the LB, RB, LT, and RT buttons on Xbox. If you are one of those people who only uses 2 fingers for 4 buttons on the back of your controller, this will require you at the very least to think about incorporating your middle finger as well on the right hand side for added effectiveness. This is because while you perform this move, your right index finger will be busy holding the R1 or RB button during the strafe dribble portion of the move. Once you exit with the sprint button, the best way or the most efficient way is to actually use your middle finger. So if you're not used to that, it might be something to think about. That being said, let's get into some in-game example of the speed boost. Now that you know the commands to execute this so-called speed boost, it's important to understand what type of scenarios you'd want to look for, at least at the very beginning while you're still getting to grips with everything. In the long run, you'll find your own methods that you find to be your favorites, because at the end of the day, the speed boost is so powerful that there's no one specific way to use it for, but certain guidelines at the beginning will help you push yourself in the right directions. Before we look at specific examples though, it's definitely important to note that this will work best with the right types of players. Those who are quick, agile, nimble, and have very good dribbling stats. In theory, you can try this with anyone, but results won't be as consistent or as smooth if you try it with bulkier midfielders or CDMs. That being said, a very good place to start with is on the flanks to complement your wing play. Now, if you haven't already seen it, we have a top 3 tips to improve your gameplay on the wing video, which is always a good place to start with before you start looking at specific tactics or mechanics to implement. So info to that video will be in the description below. Now, moving the ball from flank back to the middle can be an easy way to set your striker up for the quick finish or the quick turn followed by a shot. However, the problem is that more often than not, finding the space to cut back inside is a bit of a challenge. Now, whether you want to push the byline or cut back towards the edge of the box, the speed boost can allow you to increase the distance between you and the defender that is marking you. Thus, it gives you the time to pass it off towards the middle. In this example here, we're on the wing with Zaniolo and we activate the strafe dribble as we approach the defender in front of us. Our goal is to explode past him before he can even react so that we can eventually feed someone in the middle. Now, we patiently wait for the moment to strike by using the strafe dribble, and as we approach him, we use the exit with the R2 button and let go of the L1 and R1 buttons, which propels us into the space on the byline, and we have a really easy open passing lane into the center of the box for the easy finish. You can also look to use the explosiveness of the speed boost in the middle of the pitch or in general 1v1 situations during your build-up. If you find that your teammates are often blocked in a pretty tight game, or the man in front of you doesn't seem to be able to find the space or allows your offensive teammates to show themselves, you can use the speed boost to explode into a free direction and open up a completely new lane or set of opportunities. Even if it's just for a moment, like I said, it's all it takes for you to create a whole new set of options, and sometimes even get by an annoying CDM that's in your way. My favorite implementation of this idea, however, is in the final third in and around the box to run into space. And similar to players like Robin used to do in real life, you can use this boost to propel yourself in a direction to create space for you to shoot on your strong foot. Even if your opponent has an idea of where you want to go, more often than not, the boost can be so effective and explosive, and it just happens so fast that it doesn't matter. You will still be guaranteed a certain amount of time. The move is simply too surprising at times, so with some practice, you can create some guaranteed easy shots. In this example, we end up having the ball with Politano, and our opponent only has one single defender left to stop him. In this case, he's not even selecting him. Ideally, a simple sprint to Politano's left foot or right foot would be more than enough in this situation. However, in FIFA 20, I've often had the issue that despite there being the illusion of space, so to speak, a simple sprint in that direction would often lack the explosiveness required for me to truly propel myself freely in open space without the risk of the AI defender or the manually selected defender to catch up to me. By using the speed boost here, even if it's obvious that I'm going on my left foot, by the time my opponent even switches to his defender, my Politano is so far off and it allows me to capitalize on a 1v1 opportunity really easily. Hopefully by this point in the video, the statement that more people should be using this technique to generate space makes more sense to you. With one of the recent FIFA 20 patches in the middle of the game cycle boosting dribbling as a whole, more specifically boosting the strafe dribble, it definitely feels like the rapid exit off of the strafe dribble is very underutilized. It's definitely not something you see quite often. At this stage in the game, it's quite easy to get a hold of players with a body type and dribbling stat to make the most of this mechanic, so it's definitely a must try. And as we mentioned very briefly at the beginning of the video, if you happen to hold the controller in a way that only gives you access to 2 of the 4 triggers on the back of your controller at once, this again might feel like a very awkward thing at first, and it might require you to slightly alter how you hold the controller. But once you master the move, it becomes worth it as you have an incredibly explosive tool in your offensive arsenal. Even if it becomes predictable, you can get creative and use the fact that your opponent may be expecting you to use it to your advantage and pull something else out of the bag. Nonetheless, that's going to be it from me today, so I hope you enjoyed and I hope this was useful. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys next time. We also want to thank our elite supporters over on Patreon, and if you're interested, you can become a patron today to support the channel as well as receive cool benefits in return over at patreon.com/BPG The Guide.